Okay, the next set of notes is on adding and subtracting fractions. Make sure whenever you're putting a title in your math journal that you always underline it. If you can do it with another color, that's even better because you really want to draw your eye to it when you're referencing your math journal later. So go ahead and pause if you need to take a moment to write your title, and then you can come back. So there's two types of things that will happen with adding and subtracting. You'll have adding with like denominators and adding with unlike denominators. The major rule about adding and subtracting fractions is rule numero uno. The denominators, the bottom number, must, oops, Miss Bertrand can't spell, must. That's why you write in pencil in math and Miss Bertrand's writing in a pen. Must be the same. You cannot add two fractions unless this is true. So I'm going to do like a little side note for you. If you had pizza and you cut it into quarters, so like a massive piece of pizza, and you ate a quarter of that, say this was your cheese pizza, and then you're like, I want some pizza, pepperoni. And so you guys, so your family ordered another pizza, and they cut this one into sixths. And you're like, I'm gonna eat 2 of those. Well, which fraction of pizza did you eat altogether? You cannot add or compare these fractions because one pizza was this size, and one piece of pizza was this size. So you can't compare or add them until they're in the exact same size. It's impossible. This is a fraction out of 4, and this is a fraction out of 6. Okay, let's actually do that one. Let's actually do this fraction. If you want to draw, you can. If you don't want to draw, you don't have to. So, well, actually, we're going to come back to this one because this is unlike denominators. So the rule is the denominators must be the same. So if you're given a question, so when it's already having like denominators, that's awesome. Your work here is easier. So example would be, let's say 1/5 plus 3/5. The denominators are already the same. So the rule here, or what you have to do with adding and subtracting fractions, is once the denominators are the same, you add only the tops and you keep the denominators the same. So that's another rule. So that was rule 1. Let's put rule 2. You add the tops, or the numerators to use mathematical language. Add the numerators, keep denominators, or the bottom number. Okay, so that's the rule that we just followed here. We added the tops and we kept the denominators the same. So if you already have like denominators, it makes your life a lot easier. What if you have, let's go here, unlike denominators, or different denominators, or there's lots of ways to say that. And let's use the example that I used before. Because if we go back to this other example, if we had something in fifths, let's see my skills on drawing fifths. That's good enough. Fifths is like the hardest circle to draw. I don't think I did it right, but that's okay. So if I have 1/5 that is that size, and then I have 3/5, they're all exactly, or in theory, they're all exactly the same size. So it's easy that I ate 4/5 because the pizza was cut into fifths, and I've ate 4/5 the sizes. I didn't eat 4/5 of the 2 pizzas. I just ate 4 of the pieces that were cut into 5. So how can I compare that? So let's do this. So let's go, example is 1/4 plus 2/6. Now, I'm going to level with you. This is the hardest one. out of all of the different things of adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing fractions, this adding with unlike denominators is the hardest, because your next thing here, your next tip is you need to find a common denominator. You can do that one of two ways. There is a trick where you can just multiply them. It's 4 times 6 and use that as your common denominator. Or you can also find, first way is you can multiply the denominators, or find lowest common multiple, and that's called the LCM. In some cases, when you multiply the denominators together, that will become your LCM. So if we looked at 4 and 6, if we followed that rule, 4 times 6 is 24, and I could put them both over 24. But I also wanted to show you what it would look like to find the lowest common multiple. So if we look at the multiples of 4, you would go 4, 8, 12, 16. Let's see, let's go all the way up to 24. That's just counting by 4s. And if I look at the multiples of 6, 6, 12, 18, 24. You'll see that yes, they have 24 in common, and that will be fine. You can totally do it that way, but you'll also see that they have 12 in common. I actually just prefer to go with the 12, but you can also use the trick where you multiply. So this one kind of shows you both ways to do it. But I'm gonna go, let's just go to the 24, because I know a lot of you have been shown the multiplying the denominators trick, but I'm just gonna show you what happens. So what you have to do is you have to take your quarter, and you have to change that to a fraction over 24. This is where equivalent fractions come into play. If you don't know how to do equivalent fractions, you need to watch my first video, okay? Equivalent fractions. So whatever you do to the bottom, you must do to the top. So what did I have to multiply 4 by? I'm going to use a color here. What did I have to multiply 4 by to get to 24? Well, 4 times 6, because 74 divided by 4 is 6. You can look at a multiplication chart, you can put it into your calculator, you can try to figure out what 4 times what is 24, and the answer is 6. So the rule for equivalent fractions is whatever you do to the bottom, you gotta do the top. So 6 over 24. So now my new fraction becomes 6 out of 24. This is my new one that I want to use. And I do that to my other one as well. So let's just say, let's go down here. So then I have 2/6, and I want to change that to something over 24. Well, I actually know, since 4 times 6 was 24, I know the reverse is correct. So I know that I have to go times 4 times 4, and I get 8. So my new fraction is 8 over 24. Once you have them in common denominators, then you can add. You can't just go, you can't go like 3 over 24. You can't add the tops and then just change the bottoms. You have to change the tops, you have to change the bottoms with equivalent fractions. Okay, so we can even write that as a rule down here, so we don't forget. Change to equivalent fractions with common denominators before adding. So then you can go, you'll go 6 over 24 plus 8 over 24, and now you can add them to be 14 out of 24. Now that's not the final answer. You must simplify. Okay, so you must simplify your answers. Simplify, and if you don't know how to simplify fractions, please watch my second video. But again, what you need to find is a number like that 24 and 14 is divisible by the same number. So you can kind of go through some numbers that go into 14. So 2 times 7 is 14. And that's it. There's no other combinations. Like 3 times 4 is 12, so that doesn't work. 3 times 5 is 15, that doesn't work. Like the only fraction pairs of 14, like I'm gonna do a little thought bubble over here. 14 is only 1, 14, 2, and 7. Those are the only fraction pairs that go into 14. And so to go into to 24, you want to look to any of these also go into 24. Well, 14 does not go into 24 evenly. 7 does not, because 7 times 3 is 21 and 7 times 4 is 28. So the only number that goes into both is 2. So once I reduce this down by half, my final answer will be 7 over 12. And I can look, no other number goes into both, like there's no divisibility going on. So 7 over 12. Now I just want to return your attention, this is our final answer, but I want to return your attention to here. If I would have put my fractions over something over 12 instead of 24, I probably would have been able to avoid the reducing down or simplifying step, and I would have got right to 7 over 12. But since I chose to go with a bigger denominator, I have to reduce it to get there. Either way you do it, you'll get to the same answer. It's just less steps if you go with the lowest common multiple. If you do this way, you'll get there faster. So that's just like a little note. So now like that is the end of this, but I've been trying to show a few of you like how to kind of tidy up your notes, make it easy to look at. So you can just be like, denominators must be the same. What are some important things? You add the numerators, keep the denominators the same. Find a common denominator. You must simplify, maybe box that. You need to know how to do equivalent fractions. You got to change before adding. So when you look at these notes, how is this helpful for you? I know I didn't do any subtraction examples, but subtraction is exactly the same, except for instead of adding the 2 tops, you're going to subtract the 2 tops. So if we actually had this one, we would have 6 minus 8, which would be negative 2 over 24. But we didn't do it that way, we added. But subtracting is exactly the same, except for just subtraction. That's it.